Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most misunderstood parts of our bodies, adipose tissue. You probably know it as body fat. But get ready, because we are about to uncover its surprisingly complex and, believe it or not, very active secret life.
So let's get right to it. Is fat really the villain we've all been taught to believe it is? I mean, for decades, that's pretty much been the story, right? But what if that's a massive oversimplification? The real story is so much more intricate and, honestly, way more fascinating.
All right, first things first, we have to bust the biggest myth out there. Fat is not just some passive, inert blob that sits around storing extra calories. Far from it. It's actually a super active, incredibly dynamic, and essential part of how our bodies work. That's right, your adipose tissue is a full-blown endocrine organ just like your thyroid or your pancreas. It is constantly busy, producing and sending out hormones and signals that travel all over your body. These messengers talk to your brain, your liver, your muscles, even your immune system, to regulate everything from your appetite to inflammation. It's a communication powerhouse.
And get this, not all fat is created equal. Your body has two main types that have completely opposite jobs. On one side, you've got white fat, which we can call the saver. It's brilliant at storing energy for later. And on the other side, you've got brown fat, the spender, which actually burns energy to create heat.
So let's look a little closer at white fat. This is the stuff we usually think of as body fat. Its main gig is to be our energy bank, storing any extra calories we don't use right away. But it's also that hormonal powerhouse we talked about, pumping out signals like leptin to tell your brain, hey, we're full. Plus, it cushions our organs and keeps us warm. It's literally essential for our survival.
Brown fat, though, is a totally different beast. It's like a metabolic furnace. Why is it brown? Because it's jam-packed with iron-rich mitochondria, the little power plants in our cells. Its special job is to generate heat. Think of it like this. It uses a unique protein, UCP1, to basically short-circuit the energy production line. So instead of making fuel, it just releases all that energy as heat to keep you warm without you even having to shiver.
Okay, so we've established that the type of fat you have really matters. But it turns out that where your body decides to store that fat is just as, if not more, critical for your health.
And this phrase right here, this is the absolute key to understanding the link between body fat and metabolic disease. Seriously, the location of your fat can be the difference between being perfectly healthy and being at high risk for major health problems.
This brings us to the two major players. You have subcutaneous fat, which is the fat right under your skin, the stuff you can pinch. Then you have visceral fat. This is the fat stored deep inside your belly, wrapped around your organs like your liver and intestines. And while they're both technically white fat, their impact is worlds apart. High levels of that deep visceral fat are strongly linked to metabolic problems.
Now, what's wild is that your fat tissue has an almost unlimited ability to expand. But the way it grows, the strategy it uses, is what determines whether it stays healthy or becomes a dysfunctional, disease-causing problem.
So the first way fat can grow is through hypertrophy. This is when your existing fat cells just get bigger and bigger and bigger. Think of them like tiny balloons being inflated to their absolute limit. They just get overstuffed with fat. The second way, which is much healthier, is hyperplasia. This is where your body actually makes brand new, small, healthy fat cells. So instead of just overstuffing the old houses, you're building new, efficient little homes to handle the extra storage.
And here's why this matters so much. That hypertrophic growth, those big, overstuffed fat cells, is linked to all the bad stuff: inflammation, insulin resistance, and metabolic disease. But hyperplasia, making new fat cells, is actually associated with better insulin sensitivity. It's the key behind what some scientists call metabolically healthy obesity, where someone can carry more fat without the dangerous metabolic fallout. This leads us right to what happens when fat expansion goes wrong. When those fat cells are pushed into that unhealthy, hypertrophic state, it kicks off a dangerous chain reaction that can turn your fat tissue into a hotbed of chronic inflammation. See, as these cells get bigger and bigger, they can actually outgrow their blood supply. They aren't getting enough oxygen, a state called hypoxia. These stressed out, suffocating fat cells can even start to die. And when they do, they send out distress signals, basically chemical alarm bells that scream for the immune system to come in and clean up the mess. And this kicks off a vicious cycle. The unhealthy expansion leads to distress signals. Those signals call in immune cells.
And then those immune cells swarm the area, and instead of just a quick cleanup job, they set up camp, creating this constant, low-level state of inflammation that can spill out and affect your whole body.
What's really happening here is a total flip in the local immune population. In healthy, lean fat tissue, the immune cells are mostly these helpful, anti-inflammatory types called M2 macrophages. They're the good guys. But in that stressed, unhealthy fat, the balance shifts dramatically. Pro-inflammatory M1 macrophages take over, and they're known to drive insulin resistance. You can actually see them under a microscope, forming these crown-like structures as they surround and gobble up the dead and dying fat cells.
So we know fat type, its location, and how it expands are all key. But what if there's an even deeper layer to this story? What if the destiny of our fat is kind of pre-programmed from the very beginning? Some really groundbreaking science has found that different fat depots, like the subcutaneous fat on your legs versus the visceral fat in your belly, are built using a different set of genetic instructions. These developmental genes act like a permanent ID tag that defines what that fat depot is and how it's supposed to behave. And here's the craziest part. This genetic blueprint seems to be permanent. Scientists looked at these fat depots under all kinds of conditions, lean, obese, even after fasting, and that core programming didn't change. It suggests that the fundamental differences between our fat depots are literally baked into our biology from the start.
So as the research shows, our fat distribution isn't just a random outcome of our lifestyle. It's deeply rooted in our developmental biology. This helps explain why some people are just genetically more likely to store fat in dangerous places like the belly, no matter what they do. It's written in their code.
Which leaves us with a really provocative final thought. If our fat depots are programmed at such a fundamental level, could the future of medicine involve not just trying to lose fat, but actually reprogramming it? Could we one day teach dangerous visceral fat to act more like its healthier subcutaneous cousin? The secret life of fat is really only just beginning to be understood, and its next chapter could change absolutely everything.